Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Super Breakdown. Today we'll be looking at the EMS-TC02 Phantom Gundam, piloted by Fontobo. Phantom Gundam's real weird. It's very different than a lot of the other suits in the game. It has its basic attacks. You have the basic shot. It has a charge that gives you a dedicated stun, which is not too bad at all. This is one of the few Gundams I don't know that much about lore-wise, but gameplay-wise, it's got this spread here, which is not too bad. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and it has a pretty long charge time, but it acts almost like a shotgun, which is not bad at all. Has a mode change. It also has mobile armor mode, which allows it to almost become like an undernutter from a Bawu. If you fire the shot from that mode, then you're able to do another stun, which gives it 2 dedicated stuns, which is very nice. You also have the option to cancel out into the spread or into a roll, which is not too bad at all. The roll does have a kind of long recharge time on it. Very strangely, it feels like. It almost, especially for a 400 cost, it would not hurt it to have this roll more often. But it's not too bad, and you can cover some good distance. There's also a melee while in this mobile armor mode. I really dislike the way this mobile armor mode looks. I think it's probably the worst looking mobile armor mode out of maybe any suit I've ever seen. Something about the legs just being spread out like that I really don't like. But obviously that is personal opinion, and your opinion may vary. When we do the mode change, your shots become a little bit more powerful. You still have the stun, but it does more damage now. Still have the spread, does more damage now, and as always. You also have the ability to block. Gives you an eye field, basically. You can block Gorobis and shots and things like that. It's pretty nice to have a dedicated eye field, though it is on that timer, so it's definitely something to think about. Definitely something to remember there. Then the striker is also the eye field. It honestly has one of the best strikers in the game because of that, even though everything else about it is really strange to me. Because the striker gives you the ability to just block a Gorobi. Very nice. 2 dedicated stuns is definitely nothing to sneeze at, though. So it's definitely not terrible when it comes to combat. But the range kit doesn't flow together very well, in my opinion. The spin being on a cooldown is really weird. The ability to come out of this into a shot into a stun is very nice. But the rest of the kit just doesn't really feel like it flows very well together with it. Also, as you can see, while using the secondary mode, you do get a temporary eye field, which will allow you to block attacks, but as you can see, it ate all of my mode change too, so I wasn't able to do anything else. From there, we'll get into the melee in the second round, but I just really don't like the range game on this suit. I think you could probably use it really well if you spent some time working with it, but the spread's bad. The regular shot does not do a lot of damage. The stuns are pretty good. Show off the burst real quick in the last couple seconds of this match. Burst lets you go into your mode change again. Gives you a free mode change, which is not bad. Kind of underwhelming. Which honestly is how I would explain the Phantom in a lot of ways. It's kind of underwhelming. For a suit that has effects like that, it really just doesn't feel very powerful in this game. It feels like it's more made for 2v2s or 3v3s to block and stun your opponents so that your allies can get them. Because the damage that it does just isn't that high. We'll get into the melee here, and maybe you'll be able to see a little bit more of that, but it just does not feel like you are ever very powerful with this forward melee, unless you are mode changed. Which is why the burst lets you mode change again. Side melee. Back melee. Another dedicated stun. And standard melee. Not too bad at all. When you mode change, all your melees change. You also get faster, for what it's worth. Now our mode change is gone. Gonna make this a pain to show off. Right? Well, let's just wait it out then. And again, that's honestly a big flaw in the suit, in my opinion. The fact that you don't keep it. So even though there's the new forward melee, or the dashing melee, sorry. Like, you've used this mode, you're all excited to use your attack, and then you get hit once, and your mode's gone, you know? Like, you no longer get to use your crazy good melee. And you can see the damage is really high when you're using that version of the melee. Like, it does really good damage then. But because you can get knocked out of it with a single attack, it just becomes not that great, you know? And maybe there's a trick to it that I'm not realizing. We need basic and side melee still. Alright, there's your basic. There's your side melee. With all that said, I honestly just don't think you should use the Phantom. We asked that question always, should you use? I think the answer is no in this case. I think you should use the Phantom Striker. But I just don't feel like the Phantom, especially for a 400 cost, is really powerful enough for what it brings. I think if it did even more damage in its transform mode, then maybe. But with the amount of damage that it does and how easy it is to lose that mode, I just don't see it being better than most of the other 400s in the... With all that said, though, I've been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that the Phantom Gundam has to offer.